Welcome to Insider Medicine in Depth. I'm Dr. Susan Sharma. Being either overweight or underweight is associated with an increased risk of death, according to research published in the New England Journal of Medicine. Here's some information about BMI, or body mass index. It is calculated by dividing one's weight in kilograms by the square of one's height in meters. A high BMI has been linked with an increased risk of death from cardiovascular disease and certain cancers. A BMI of about 20 to 25 is generally considered healthy, while a BMI of 30 or more is evidence of obesity. Researchers from the National Cancer Institute analyzed data from 19 studies that involved nearly 1.5 million adults in order to determine the relationship between BMI and the risk of death. The investigators took into account variability in death rates associated with age, study participation, physical activity, alcohol consumption, education, and marital status, so that they could identify the effects of BMI alone. Among healthy participants who had never smoked, the relationship between BMI and death was a J-shaped curve. This means it was somewhat elevated for those with a very low BMI and more significantly elevated among those with a very high BMI. Death rates were lowest for those with a BMI of 20 to 24.9. As BMI moved away from this reference point, becoming either higher or lower, the risk of death increased. It was highest for those with the largest BMIs. Those with a BMI of 40.0 to 49.9 had more than 2.5 times the risk of dying, as compared to those with a BMI of 22.5 to 24.9. We spoke with Dr. Amy Barrington de Gonzalez, one of the investigators of this study, who offered some further insight.
In particular, we wanted to answer two questions. So the first was, what's the optimal BMI range with respect to mortality? And the other question was, what's the risk associated with being overweight? So that's having a BMI in the range of 25 to 30. And there's been particular uncertainty about the association for this BMI level. And what we found was that the optimal BMI is in the range of 20 to 25 with respect to mortality. And we also found that being overweight is associated with a small increased risk of death, that the participants who were overweight had about a 10% higher risk of all-cause mortality compared to those in the normal BMI range of about 20 to 25. Something else that we were able to do, because we had a very large study population, was to study the group with very high BMI levels. That's those with a BMI over about 40. And these people we found had 2.5 times higher risk of death than those in the normal BMI range.
Today's research demonstrates a direct relationship between BMI and risk of death, providing more evidence for the importance of maintaining a healthy weight. For Insider Medicine in Depth, I'm Dr. Susan Sharma.